Next, we showcase the rise and fall of Nigel Peach and the Fellas, and their infamous performance on Live from New York with Bobby Chicago. The band consisted of bombastic frontman Nigel Peach, bassist Chester Bass, the drummer known to the world only as Venus, and legendary German guitarist Mattias Der Schredder Hansen. Nigel Peach and the Fellas notoriously led the failed first wave of the British invasion. They were discovered by their manager, Texan, after a short tour in Europe.
I still remember getting told we were going to perform on Bobby Chicago. On the Bobby Chicago show, our manager had come into the studio when we were working on our second album.
Well, it's a big deal for us. The lads had gotten some traction after a short European tour. Someone from the Bobby Chicago show had invited us to New York to come perform.
It was a big deal. We had never had a foreign act on the show before, and we thought the audience should be exposed to a broader variety of music.
Well, Elvis was in the Army, so we couldn't get him on again. And the producers were looking for an act that was going to make a big splash. I didn't particularly care either way.
It was truly a watershed moment for entertainment.
To this point, a British band had not appeared on a prominent American television show.
And it was a big deal for us at the time because, they didn't have music in England at that point.
I remember Rex breaking the news to us, and naturally, we were all through the roof. We thought this was a big break, and we all told Nigel that we need to do this. But he was, apprehensive.
Well, Nigel didn't want to leave the country because he was deathly afraid of sailing. We told him plenty of times that there were no boats on this trip, but he just didn't believe us.
We told him, Nigel, we just left the country to do a European tour, and he just told me that it was semantics.
Eventually, we got him to come around to it.
We got him piss drunk and dragged him, passed out, on the plane.
And just like that, we were off to the Big Apple.
However, in New York City, things wouldn't be so peachy keen.
How would I describe arriving in New York? Well, it was a bigger disaster than the Great Fire of London.
Well, when the plane landed, there was thousands of fans waiting at the airport. At first, we had to drag Nigel off the plane. Luckily, he was still unconscious.
Well, Nigel woke up. He wasn't exactly in the best mood. He had one hell of a headache and was still quite knackered. Honestly, I wasn't sure if he'd be able to perform that night.
I knew he'd pull through. Nigel knew two things: hangovers and playing music hungover.
When we finally got to the studio, old Bobby walked up to greet Nigel, and there was almost immediate animosity between the two.
The clash between Bobby Chicago and Nigel has gone down in rock and roll history as one of the most infamous misunderstandings the industry has ever seen.
I think the tension between Nigel and the host was relatively overstated. I think it was more a breakdown in communication for whatever reason than any true tension.
I thought he was a drunken schmuck.
It didn't help that Nigel decided to burp the alphabet as soon as he got backstage. I don't think Bob liked that too much.
I had to smooth things over with Bob initially. He threatened to ban him from the show, but eventually the producers stepped in on our behalf.
However, the producers only managed to make the situation worse by extending the band's segment to include an interview with Nigel.
In hindsight, no. I probably wouldn't have gone to bat for them. But we were desperate for new acts to put that bastard Johnny Parr on the sidelines. Of course, if we knew Carson was coming, we never would have gone along with it.
It's not that Nigel was bad with people.
It's that he was terrible with them.
Yeah, Nigel was just ahead of his time. How many famous rock stars ever dealt with the press well anyway?
He just wasn't your traditional artist at the time. The worst you usually saw was someone's hips moving beyond a 45-degree angle.
Well, yeah, that's how they get you, with the fluoridation of water. They want to control your minds. They're gonna create cavities in your teeth and use them as mind control devices. It's like the pogroms in the Soviet Union, you know. It's just a wild cacophony of bad things.
Okay, what the
Things were looking dire for the band. Bobby Chicago infamously went off on the group during the commercial break. However, feeling pressure from the executives, he allowed them to go on stage.
I still can't quite believe what happened when we got on stage.
The curtain came up, the band had started to play, and then he just froze.
Knew something was very wrong when he hit the floor.
I hosted late night television for nearly 4 decades. Hell, they even let me smoke behind my desk for most of it. So believe me when I say, I've seen my fair share of bizarre shit. Most of it of my own creation. This was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
Between Bob's screaming and Nigel's eccentricities, well, it was just too much for him, I reckon.
Well, he was literally afraid of the spotlight.
I've seen stage fright before. Like I said, 4 decades in television. But I'd never seen anyone, and I mean anyone, cower from the spotlight like this guy.
And I don't mean in the metaphorical sense either. Like, legitimately afraid of the spotlight.
I remember that our jaws hit the floor in the boardroom. We had staked a lot on this performance being a hit and being able to capitalize on the emerging market.
Well, it was a fatal blow to the lads. It wasn't any later than when they'd gotten backstage. The band had fallen apart.
I went backstage to check on the guests like I always did, but when I heard 5 voices screaming like a company of angry chimps, I decided against it.
I don't know if anyone said anything in that room. All I remember for certain was at some point, well, Nigel threw a chair at our friend Mr. Chicago.
And just like that, the band was bloody done.
Would I trade it for anything? Yes, absolutely. It was the most embarrassing experience of my professional life. And I managed Bo Diddle.
It took me a few years to get past it. And it didn't help that bastard Ed Sullivan had the Beatles on a few years earlier. Where the hell were they, huh?
And we never saw Nigel again.